Hey folks, ET here coming at you with a week ahead. This week we're going to take a look at AMD, OXY, and CVNA Carvana. And one of the things I want to point out, alright, is most of you know that I look for support resistance levels drawn by our AI generated things that match up with gamma a little bit as I go along. To do that, you basically just come here to levels, you click support resistance, and then you click GEX. I like to go out a little bit further, maybe the hour, 4-hour time frame. This is the hour, this is the 15-minute right here that we have, and I kind of look for some confluence between levels to see what support resistance and what gamma match up. So right now, AMD has been on an absolute face melting rally. Look at this, it's crazy, 158 to 174. It has absolutely been going hard, but I would like to see a little bit of downside on it. If I'm going to continue long, I would surely like to see a little bit of downside. So this is simply kind of how I go through some things when I start to look at plays as we go along. There's some positive gamma and a support level at 170.93. So we see a positive level here. Remember, positive levels repel price. So one could surmise that we would have a shot at dipping down from 174 to about 170 for a little bit of a dip. Now, there are some lower pulls that match up a little bit. There's a 160 all the way down here that matches up with some support and resistance levels as well. So we get those SR levels, we get those gamma, we get that lined up, and we kind of start to see a picture of perhaps we could see a pullback. Not saying 160 is all the way where we go, but I would not be shocked to see a little bit of a pullback to at least 170, so it might be a nice spot to short on any green candles that I see. And then another thing that I always look at is I look at dark pool levels, and I point this out all the time. I like to see how far we are away from our largest aggregate level and how much that changes. There are some SIG prints that rolled through lower on Friday, so maybe we do see some downside. I wouldn't think 138 would be that much of a dip. That'd be a $40 drop almost in a week, but keep that in mind, mark that on your chart as you go along. So our largest aggregate is at 148.13, which would be an absolute massive dip. And you also see sentiment here has been pretty much up for it as of late, all right, but it went down a little bit on Friday even as we ran up. So that is an interesting look there. So this is what's got me thinking I am going to short a few pops on AMD, at least down to 170. It's that simple. When I start to look at things, I will just set myself some price alerts in TV, and I will go along. I'll draw out some levels. I'll draw out the support resistance. I'll draw out dark pools. I'll draw out the gamma, and I'll see where everything is going. If you remember and you see my live SPY chart all day long in our Discord, you know that's how I draw things out, and that's how I make my plays as I go along. So there's AMD. I have a little bit of a short thesis, at least early week going into it, and we could probably look into its price distribution and some other things and see that matches up. But I want you to do a little bit of homework and go through that on your own. I'm just giving you a real simple look at 3 tickers right now. All right, the next one up is OXY. We are not quite bottomed yet. There's still some stuff down here. If we go out a little bit further into our time frames, we'll see that there's an AI drawn level here as well at about 55. So interesting to see. Oil has been absolutely getting beat up. Everything ran a little bit on Friday, but we do have some gamma and some support resistance starting to match up. So one thing that I'm looking at here is I would like about 60 on a long thesis here, taking dips up to 60. Some 60 calls maybe is what I might do. That matches up pretty well with the gamma right here and the support and resistance level right here. It's shocking to see sometimes how frequently these things absolutely match up as we go along. All right, so we start to see some correlation in our things. That gamma likes to be around support resistance. Support resistance have been around forever, and so they place these things somewhere around that area, and that's where we get to. So there's a little bit of pull there towards the upside, and then slightly more to 65 if something happens with oil. I would think we'd need an event probably to cause that to happen, but some calls up to that a few weeks out would not bother me. If we can break above the support, the SR level at 59.14, then maybe we get that 61.55, which is still a pretty nice run if we get that. So that's just another one I'm looking at. Let's go ahead and take a look at its dark pool. All right, it has actually been hanging out near its largest aggregate. You know, sometimes I like to play if it's too far away. I like to think of some downside. or if the level were all the way up here, I think definitely some upside as we go along. So I'd like to see it kind of matriculate its way up throughout these levels a little bit, get up to our 60-15 PT before maybe we see some more downside on it. So that's another one that I'm keeping an eye on. We can dig through its aggregates and all those things here in a few seconds. We're just going to go through every ticker first, and then we'll dig in a little bit deeper. CVNA, the reason I've got some interest here is there was a TradyFlow for August of 24 for 60 calls. As you can see, there is a level up here, a support resistance at 57.74. There's not a gamma that matches right there. There is one that matches right around here at this support level. Couple bucks difference, but that is what I'm watching right there. So I'm thinking a little bit of upside on dips if I can get it down. If I can get some dips down here a little bit lower, maybe into the 42 range. You can see these levels. You can always clear these out. You can always clear that out a little bit, and then I really messed it up there, didn't I? You can always clear those out a little bit, and then redraw your levels if you want to get a good clean look without the gamma on there. So what I'd like to see is maybe some dips down to this 42.74, and then maybe some rips up to this 50 throughout the week. So that's another long thesis that I have there that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Let me go ahead and let's just pull up. I've got it up on SPY, but I'll change it out here in a second. So let's just go ahead and pull up and take a look at each one and what they look at. AMD first, and then we'll go through OXY, and then we'll go through Carvana, and just take some looks at its price distro and what its gamma profile looks like and its GEX and VEX profile. As you can see, AMD has got an absolute face melting right there. It's got a decent win percent when its deltas are down. Its deltas have gone down. Its Monday price distribution looks a little mixed, little back and forth. Tuesday it's starting to look a little weaker. Wednesday a little bit weaker. All right, and then Thursday it starts to get kind of even, but there's two nice green bars there for Thursday for maybe some upside, and then Friday actually is kind of mixed as well. We do also have dealer OI, which remember green equals bearish. All right, on dealer OI, and green and red equals bearish on customer OI. All right, so there is a little bit of moment of weakness here over the next few weeks for it. So it's showing some slight bearish potential there. And then as we go along, I like to take a look at its GEX and VEX profile. Not very supported all the way up where we are right now. 154 would be one heck of a dip, but it would match up with a few levels. And if we're just looking at our aggregate right here, we're all the way up here in this area right here for around the 175, 170 range, and its biggest aggregate pull is 160, which matches somewhat with right here, but not too much. All right, so that's AMD for us. Let's go ahead and dig into OXY. Energy just been really getting hurt lately, been being pummeled. And it's one of those things, I don't like to play it close or weeklies. When it comes to that with oil, I like to buy a month or two's time, because it just happens to go kind of crazy for us. And when it runs, it runs. So price distribution here is pretty even for us. Right, so OXY is one of those ones that I'm a bit mixed on. It just shows a little bit more upside Tuesday. All right, Wednesday kind of the same. Everything looks kind of mixed, so there could be some consolidation that we see before it decides to go. So interesting to see there. Let's go ahead and check 10-day to see if there's any more potential. 10-day still shows some downside, and also, so this might be a questionable long for me. It does show some bearish potential here for the next few weeks as well. But we could get around that range, just a couple weeks of consolidation before it goes, and that's why when I buy oil, I buy it further out. But its gamma does match up with some SR levels around 59, so that would actually match up pretty perfectly if we got up to 60 for those calls. If we just look at its aggregate, and if we go ahead and check its weekly, same thing. We kind of hang around this 56, which was a support resistance. Like I said, it's never shocking to me to see these gamma levels line up so well with support resistance. That is how I look for my things there. So we get that, all right, and then maybe we get up to our 59 and then top out at 60 for the week, which would be a pretty nice, probably 30 to 80% win around there on calls, even a month out. Probably not 80%, but probably 30% win if I'm about a month out on calls. Price is supported in its GEX and VEX profile there as well. So kind of how I look through things. I hope everybody's kind of following along and seeing what I'm seeing. And just when I go through these plays, I just look for those few little things. I look for support resistance to line up with gamma. I look to see where we are in comparison to our biggest aggregate dark pool level. And then I go through our price distro, and I go through our sometimes TradyFlow. If I see that, like I said, I'll go through our price distro, and I go through our dealer OI, and I go through our gamma levels to see what's going on, to see what things match up. So this actually shows some bearish potential over the next few weeks, but we'll see how that goes. Price distro for Monday isn't good, so maybe that's the dip day. Actually, every day so far we've looked here does not look that great. Remember, this isn't 100%, and these do change, so we could see a big difference. As Monday close comes along, we could see some changes in bars as we go along. So maybe this is one that even though I'm thinking about longing, I take a very keen eye and make sure I set a higher stop loss, and make sure I don't play any weeklies as I go along. But interesting thing here, we're all the way down here at this 45. 44 looks to be a pretty important repel level as well. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what the weekly says. Weekly actually has 42 as our biggest pull, which kind of gets below that support resistance level. And then for some reason there's some crazies that had 70 pumping here. So maybe they're looking, which did match up with close to at least a support resistance on there. Let's go ahead and just take a little bit of a look. Looks like it could range in between this 40 right here and up to the 47.5, which matches up with some later weeks. Kind of one of those things. And this one I'm still iffy on. The only one that I feel somewhat confident on is just taking an AMD, not for a swing short, just some scalps, but that it might revisit a few things as we go along. I still like CVNA long, and I still like OXY long, and I ultimately like AMD long later on as we go as well. But I would like to see that dip down to this 42.74. If you want to go into some smaller time frames and see what the, get some different levels, it will give you some other ones. 42.61 still seems to be the right spot. As you can see, 41.50 would match up with some of those gammas as well that we saw in there. So that's where I'll draw it out. I'm going to set some alerts on CVNA for dips. All right, I'm going to set some for 42, let's say 70, right around there, and then I'm going to set one for 41.50. And if we get down there, then I'll revisit all the data and see if it is nice long or not. Those are the three things I'm watching for the week. We will see how it all plays out, how wrong I am or how right I am. Everybody have a good week. Stay safe out there and go get that Oprah money.